Ay, mamá Inés. ¿Pero qué te pasa? Ay, mamá Inés.
Hey.
All right.
I like that music.
Now we're live. You like that?
Yeah.
You know what that's from?
No.
Somebody had compiled all the music that was ever referenced in Love and Rockets and like made a playlist of it.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah, and that was one of the songs that was on there. So, yeah. So have you had a chance to have lunch yet?
No, not yet. I get lunch after this.
Okay. I'm sorry, man. I know I'm taking your sweet time.
I'm a freelancer. I eat at all weird times. It's fine. I'm not hungry.
Okay. So you work from home now?
Yeah, I mean, more so now. I used to go to cafes a lot more of the time. Now it's more working from home for the most part.
Is that
until
from
places open?
Yeah. Yeah, because I thought you worked in an office or something. That was my impression of you.
I did for a long time, yeah. And then about 6 years ago, I started freelancing. Yeah, and I've got my home office here. Yeah, I haven't been in an office for a while. It's kind of great.
What do you do for a living?
Graphic design, a lot of graphic design for, if you need signs made or banners or books put together or advertisements made. That's how I pay rent.
Okay.
Illustration, stuff like that.
Not book. You said book design.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's like your big calling card because all your books are like really terrifically designed.
Oh, thanks.
By yourself, and then you don't publish yourself anymore, right? I guess it's 2D Cloud or Uncivilized.
I mean, it depends on the book, I guess. I still like to make a book myself first, even if it's going to be, printed by more people. It's I've worked with 2D Cloud, and then Holy Hanna's with Uncivilized Books. So I've worked with a few different publishers.
Yeah, Top Shelf back in the day.
Yeah, Top Shelf. Yeah. But I don't know. I'm not so into making like bigger graphic novels anymore, so it's not something I really think about as much. But I like publishers. I like publishing and I like books, but sometimes it's nicer just to make it myself, I guess.
What do you mean by big? Like, is Holy Hanna gonna be the last big graphic novel you do?
I don't know. I mean, it's the last one. Like Holy Hanna was definitely a time where I was thinking, oh, I'm gonna be like Noah and Mari, and I'll just do books. I'll make books and be like an author, and eventually I'll just have a bunch of books, and then that's what I'll be doing. But I did Trying Not to Notice, and then Holy Hanna, and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to make it more. It's the longer stories, just kind of like it takes a lot to ramp up to it, and then I get really depressed when it's done. And I really just want to be drawing comics all the time, I guess. And so that's what I'm doing now with the Diners Club anyway, Eat Street Diners Club, where I'm always in the middle of the story, which is where I like to be. And then if I want to make a book, I can, but it's not really the goal, I guess. That makes sense.
Is that a webcomic?
Yeah, I guess so. It's more like I send it out by newsletter, so I'm trying to ramp up to like some sort of subscription model, I guess. But mostly, I just share it by email. And but yeah, I would call it a webcomic. But I've made books out of them. So
yeah, I got one of the mini comics from you.
Oh, cool.
Last year, I think. So wait, how does that work? The mailing list thing. How do you do that?
Well, it's just a newsletter. I mean, newsletters were pretty popular, especially during the pandemic. But like before that, I was just mailing them out every month. It was like a monthly webcomic, and you'd get like 8 to 10 pages of a story. And then the Diners Club, the conceit is that I go to a different restaurant on Eat Street, which is by where I live, and I do a story with these characters about that place and the food that they eat, or the food that I eat. And then and then I'd send it out, and I just kind of like did that to feel like I was developing the characters and the style always, and not worrying so much about a longer story, but just kind of these little one shots. yeah, so then I just kind of collect email addresses from people and mail them, email them out to people, and then I'll sell books every so often. It's I'm making so much money doing it.
Of course.
Tons of cash. Just like
yeah, but
I'm not even really. I haven't even activated the subscription part of it too. I'm still just kind of enjoying the fact that I can have a regular audience for the comics, I guess.
Yeah. Is that I'm trying to figure out like how do you collect emails though? Like how does
I mean, like if anybody's listening to this, they can go to East Street Diners Club right now and sign up, and you'll get. I mean, they haven't gone out lately because I've been doing the Rust Belt Review comic for Sean Knickerbocker.
Oh, that's cool. That's a great anthology.
Oh, it's so cool. Like that, I had to stop doing the monthly comics. I was like, oh man, I don't really get asked to do a lot of anthologies, and the pages are like enormous. So I had to kind of redo what I was doing, and now I'm drawing a two-parter for that. But once that's done, I'll go back to the monthly comics.
Yeah, that's great, man. I love that. I have both issues that came out so far.
That's great.
Yeah, that's really cool. Is he in Minneapolis?
Yeah, I saw Sean yesterday, actually. Yeah, okay. He's also expecting.
Oh, really? That's funny. So, Minneapolis is still sort of the hub for comics, man. Because I remember, 10 years ago, it was like everybody was talking about Minneapolis as being like the place to go, like if you wanted to be like in a community of cartoonists. And so, right now, it's like Minneapolis and Columbus, Ohio, are still the two spots. Maybe Chicago, I guess. I don't know who's still in Chicago, but.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of cartoonists in Chicago. I mean, yeah, we've got the college here, so there's always new cartoonists, which is the neat thing about it, and it's a pretty affordable place to live, so other cartoonists will kind of camp out here for a little bit sometimes. Yeah, no, it's good. We did, I help out with the Toptic too, so we just did our digital festival. We just posted a whole bunch of interviews for that. I don't know, it is kind of a community. It's hard to say that, especially after the last couple of years when you don't see people as much as normal. But we try and get together as best we can.
Mm-hmm. Who's involved? Is Zach Sally involved in Autoptic still?
No, he's not. But Robert Algio, who used to be part of it, Sean Knickerbocker, Pete Fakey, Alex Mitchell. We've got Kristen Tipping, Kyle. We've got people who come and go.
Yeah.
It's it's different too because we haven't done a festival now but we've been doing other stuff which I think has been pretty fun. It's nice to collaborate with cartoonists on projects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I want to know about like your daily process, like what time you wake up in the morning. You start working. Because you seem like you're pretty prolific. It seems like you always have something new out there, even if it's like not a book, but like there's like so many mini comics that you've done that I keep finding, and I'm like, I never saw this one before. So how do you do that?
I mean, the goal is always to be drawing some comic at some time. That's always the idea. So I kind of developed a way of working while I still had an office job where I just always had a comic page with me, just right there while I was working. And I remember at the time I'd have it like right next to my, desk and my computer, and then I'd have like paper over it so people couldn't see what I was doing, or if they came by, I'd kind of like, move over and kind of hide it. And then eventually it was like, no one ever said anything. So I just was openly drawing at that point. And so I kind of am comfortable just always having a page. I got a page next to me here. Like it's always just with me at my desk and I can work on it. And then I try not to like work for, I don't know, it's helpful for me to be able to like look at it and look away, do a little bit, look away. I get really overwhelmed if I sit down, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna draw this page today. Like it never turns out well. Like I can't like force it. I just kind of got to feel like I'm always kind of thinking about it a little bit to get it done.
We have people coming. There's some work that needs to be done on our house, so we have people in the house like all day while I'm working, and I have like Post-it notes over panels of the story that I'm working on because they're kind of some of them, there's like nudity and stuff in it that I'm like really afraid of because the people that work on the house are like they wear like crosses and stuff. So I'm like, oh, I don't want them to come in here and be like, what are you into? What are you doing? You're a cartoonist. What is that?
Mostly pornographic comics, violence, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You guys gonna be here all day? Yeah.
It's so uncomfortable when people that you know or don't know anything about comics try and figure out what you do for a living, or they want, they're interested. They're like, what is this? Oh, I'm gonna have to look you up. And don't do that. Don't.
Yeah, like, you don't. It's not for you, really. Yeah. No, I definitely have that experience. Although the Diners Club is a little more, it's my experiment in doing everything that I said I wouldn't do. So it's way more friendly for sharing.
What is everything you said you wouldn't do? What do you mean by that?
Well, like, I don't know, like, well, it's a webcomic for one. It's not a book.
Mm-hmm.
I use goddamn word balloons, which is not something I really ever did.
Yeah, that's right.
It's straight humor. Like, I'm just trying to be funny with it, which is, I don't know, it's just kind of like, I never liked a story that didn't have any humor in it.
Mm-hmm.
So but I never really just said, the whole point of this is to be funny. God, I don't know. Every time I think about it, it's another thing. I'm like, boy, I said I'd never do that, but now I'm doing that. And I don't know, it's fun. Makes it like new in a way.
What you brought up voice bubbles, and that actually, I always have been curious about this. Why do you hate voice bubbles? Why do you give dialogue their own panel?
For the longest time, I just really wanted to be able to control the pacing of comics, and I just really didn't like how they looked. Most word balloons looked on a page either. And especially like superhero books where you've got like giant panels and you've got like 4 word balloons in it. It's like, what am I supposed to be, what am I doing here? What am I supposed to look at? So I just had an aversion to them anyway. And I definitely felt like when I really separated the text, I had a lot of control over how it was read, and the pacing. And it was also really handy there for a while because I was doing a lot more comics readings. And those just went better if you didn't have to see a word balloon, with text already in it. It doesn't really work as well unless you're just showing a panel with artwork and then you're reading it. So there were a lot of reasons to keep doing it for a while too, and then now I'm less against them. They're fine.
Yeah, the anthology thing is, you said like nobody asks you to be in anthologies anymore or whatever, but it's like, that was a period of time, like 10 years ago, when it just seemed like you were always working on something for an anthology, right? There's always some anthology.
Not me, but yeah, it seemed like everyone was. Yeah, there were tons of them. Yeah, there was definitely that approach too, where it's like maybe you serialize your work through many different anthologies, or yeah.
Yeah, it dried up for me. Nobody asked me to be in anything anymore. But that was like a big part of comics. Is like, you were going to work on your main thing, and then you're going to do something for this person and this everybody was working on their own, and they never sold well. So maybe that's what it was. People just kind of wised up, like.
Yeah. Except, yeah. I mean, we did an anthology with the Toptic last year for the Digital Festival, kind of in the same vein as the old SPX anthology. Do you remember that?
Yeah, of course.
Where it was just everybody who was at SPX got a page in the anthology, and they don't do that anymore because it'd be a phone book probably, and impossible to print. But that was really fun to do. I
should find a copy of that. That's interesting. Do you want to talk about how we got involved with 2D Cloud?
Oh yeah, this is great. So questions just pop up. All right. Well, I know them. Well, so there's in Minneapolis, there's a kind of a superhero convention that happens like twice a year. And it's the people who run it, they own a comic shop called The Source, and they're just great. And so they'll let anybody who's a cartoonist go and sell their artwork, but it's mostly a superhero kind of show. And I remember Rain and Megan coming by all the time because they're, like this tall, they're like really short, and they were clearly like really arty, and they were just in love with everything that wasn't, like superheroes, and they just loved all the indie comics. And, Vincent Stahl would be there, and they would just love all these like handmade artist books. And I just thought of them as like kind of fans, really. And then when they started publishing, it just became, I don't know, it was exciting to talk to them, especially at that time, and wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah.
They were just, I don't know, they had a different eye, and what they liked was really unique, which is, I don't know, it's fun to be part of, for sure.
Yeah, I think when I got involved with 2D Cloud, they'd only published like 2 things. Like one was like called Yearbooks, maybe, or something like that. It was this Nick Brutzman.
Yearbooks, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they published like 20,000 copies of it.
I know, they were doing that was the other thing. I was like, I think I can help a little bit with some of these things.
Yeah.
But right away, they're like, oh yeah, maybe not print so many. But
yeah, that was it. So I only did a couple things with them. Really?
Yeah, the Lovejoy, right?
Yeah. And then I did like a diary mini comic.
Yeah, both of those are really good.
But they got, I think 2D Cloud got a little bit more artsy, and they steered away from like the direction of cartooning that I felt I fit in with. So that was kind of.
I think a lot of that too. There, at least in the beginning when I was there, Justin was part of it.
Yeah,
and there was kind of a little bit more of a balance to it. And then when Rain kind of, Justin moved on and Rain took over it. Yeah, it definitely took on more of his aesthetic, I would say.
What about, you tell me about Top Shelf and how that happened? Because that was a pretty big thing, right? I mean,
isn't your first book is always a big deal, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That was great because it was also it happened pretty early for me too, because I just started going to comic shows, and I remember going to MoCA when it was in the Puck building, and just thinking that comics were the most beautiful thing in the world. Like that building was amazing. It's still the best comic convention I'd ever attended and exhibited at. Like there were there'd be celebrities walking around. There would be actual people from New York looking to hire the illustrators there. And I was pretty green at that point. But there was a lot of that happening. And I just, I talked to Brett, and he just said he wanted to publish it.
It was a mini comic.
I didn't let him take it back.
Yeah. But what was it? It was a mini comic first that you published.
Yeah, I did it was a mini comic called Beautiful, Cool, and Irreplaceable. I do love that title. I wish I kept that title because it ended up being called Fingerprints because it seemed like too much of a mouthful, but I don't know. Now I feel like I should have just made made a stand about like keeping that title, but it was my first book, I didn't want to be too much trouble.
Yeah. And they cut it in half too.
Yeah, that's right. Cause they wanted it to be a graphic novel. And what I had was almost a graphic novel. I don't know. I was drawing in a very modular way at that time. So I had already done a comic book version and then another thicker one. I was like, sure, I can make it, into a book. It was mostly a design problem that I was enjoying at that point. Yeah, it was cool.
And I think they colored it too, or they asked.
I colored it. Yeah, I did color it. That was an early one that I colored.
Yeah, that was great, man.
Photoshop.
And then you disappeared for 7 years.
Is that what happened? I felt like I was making books that whole time, but
you disappeared for 7 years, and then you came back with the book from 2D Cloud, trying not to notice.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it seemed on the outside. It was like, "Where's Will?" And then all of a sudden, "Oh, there's Will."
Oh, in between there, I was doing a lot of artist books.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember there was a Minnesota Center for Book Arts here, and I was there a lot making learning letterpress, doing a lot of screen printing. I was doing a lot more handmade books. I don't know if you remember the comic I did Covered in Confusion.
Yeah.
That's after Fingerprints. I did a lot of things. It's just I didn't work with publishers for a while after that came out.
That was after Fingerprints? I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Won an Isotope Award, and then
yeah,
that's a brutal fucking story, man. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one I can't revisit now.
Yeah, that's right. You can't do that. Yeah, that's probably no fun for you. It wasn't fun for my family either. They're like, "Why'd you do that?"
Yeah. You're a dad, aren't you, Will?
No.
What? Oh, okay. I thought you were. So that's why you can just do that kind of brutal shit up there.
Well, I did that. So it's a story about a teacher who leaves their kid in the car on the first day of school. And that's something that happened at my high school. That's why I did the story. I remember hearing it, and just every time I thought of it, had this visceral, emotional reaction to it. And it just seemed like, I'll bet this would translate. And I'd never really had that kind of a feeling before when I read comics.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was why I did that comic. It's I really want to just, I don't know, have a strong emotional reaction in a story and see what that's like.
Yeah. And when you win an Isotope Award, do they make you do the toilet seat for the store? Is that what
Yeah, they do. That was really great though. Because I think most people they would just draw it while they were in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And the Covered in Confusion, I screen printed the cover with my screen printing partner Pat Callahan, and we had done this like black ink on black paper with white skeleton all over it. And so I asked I was like, can you just ship me? Or I think I took the seat with me in my bag and took it home, and we painted it black and screen printed the skeleton on top of it. That was really fun. So yeah, you kind of have to do that. I was all right with that.
So you just brought a toilet seat on the plane? Yeah.
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 And shipped it back to him.
When you do like the self-published, specially designed books, what are the print runs like for something like that?
I don't know. It depends on the book and how many shows I'm doing, really, and how much people like the book. What I used to do is just try and have something new for some convention that I was doing, because I learned enough that there's certain shows, no matter what you'll bring, you'll always just make that $100, no matter what. And then there's some shows where you'll be completely ignored unless you have something new that time, And so, I just always tried to have something new. And sometimes that meant I was just doing a print run for just that show. Or sometimes I would do a little bit, more, like 50, sometimes hundreds. There's never too many. I don't like keeping on to, too much inventory, I guess.
You don't have inventory of your old work for people to get?
I mean, I have archives, kind of. That's it. I'm kind of dwindling down the number of books that I have. It's I don't know. It's maybe just because I stopped doing shows as much.
Yeah,
I think it's because that's really the fun part of selling books.
Mm-hmm.
Is when you're there and you're like meeting people, and you can kind of have them all out at once.
I don't remember really. I can't remember like what the last time I did a show like that.
Yeah, you're usually with the publisher now.
Yeah, and then you don't really make any money because you're just selling the books that you publish.
Yeah, I did that a few times, and I mean, I was always really fun to like stand there with Rain, and make jokes all day and sell your book, and that's really fun. But the trade-off is like, I don't know, I always went home with no money in my pocket, and like, so I always really liked the idea of thinking about the trip as like a chance to go out there and really see what people like of my work.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. I have like big Tupperware thing, like of all the, when you do a book or whatever, they send you copies. So I still have like multiple copies of like everything I've done because I just never had a chance to really sell them, So at some point, I guess I'll put them on like a big cartel or something. That I have like Blammo and some mini comics that I've done and stuff like that I probably should get rid of. All the Fonzie Bukowskis and everything.
Your Patreons or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. So, because you're so about like format with these comics, like what comes first, like the story or the format?
When I'm making more handmade books, occasionally I'd have like a format that I'd really want to do. Like if there was like a particular like map fold or something I really wanted to print, sometimes I would let that kind of dictate the type of story I was going to do. But always it's just a story. I don't have like not somebody who is like brimming with great ideas all the time. So when I have one, I just give it everything I have. And so it's usually just some story that I want to tell or some emotion that I had that I want to kind of express. I feel like those have been, like when I was screen print or letterpressing a lot, those were more kind of like stories based on like emotions I had or experiences or kind of experiments or things like that. I don't know. I kind of jump around a lot, I guess, in the different things I do. For me, process is like the whole point. Like for me, it's all about figuring out how, and it changes all the time. It's all about how I'm putting the work together and how to keep myself interested in it.
Do you keep like notebooks that you're writing story ideas in and stuff?
Okay, I have note cards. I have like a giant stack of note cards. If I have an idea, I'll put it on there and put it in the stack. and then I'll go back and look at it as I'm assembling a story, maybe. When I'm drawing like a Diners Club comic, what I'll usually do is I'll have pages and I'll have them all, and then I'll write the comic on one side and then draw it on the other.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of have it all together, and then try and I'll pencil them all at once, and then I'll ink them all and then add the color.
Oh.
I keep myself on a schedule so that if I miss a day, like let's say I'm supposed to have 5 pages penciled by today, but I only have 4. I don't like go back and do the last page. I just move forward with the next one. It kind of keeps me, I don't know, it keeps the momentum going, I guess, because you'll have good days and bad days as a cartoonist. And like when you have a good day, you can catch up really quickly. And it's better if you don't feel like you're going uphill, like you're the whole time, rather than you're just kind of catching up on things you didn't get to. But we're mostly figured out, or mostly thought through, or kind of, enough to be on the page anyway.
You can pencil 5 pages, 4 pages a day?
No, not in I mean, I will work on multiple things at a time, but no, I can't do, I mean, I could pencil a prop if I really wanted to. I could probably pencil a couple pages in a day, but I don't know why I'd want to.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a very good page, I don't think.
Well, how light are your pencils, though? I mean, it depends on how loose your pencils are,
They're, right now, the way I draw, I used to kind of draw like an art student, where it's really loose and I'm trying to like discover the drawing in there and put together the composition. And now I have a lot more fun getting to a place where I'm really deliberate with the drawing. And it's like, I draw with a 4H lead. Mm-hmm. And so it's, very faint, but it's, very hard. So I can't do a lot of erasing. And I just kind of like try and be as confident with the drawing as though it's going to be right the first time. And it usually saves me a lot of time. And it is actually, if I'm warmed up, then it actually is really good. That's the thing I wanted to ask you. Like, I feel like now I spend more time making sure I'm warmed up before I start drawing a comic page. You must keep I know you keep a sketchbook, but like, Is that how you do that? Or do you warm up at all?
I used to keep a sketchbook. I just haven't had the time to really. I feel like now, because there's stuff that I have to get done, that like I'd be wasting my energy in a sketchbook. I didn't used to feel like that, but like now I'm like, I have this amount of time to get stuff done, and I just need to use that energy on this. So, and I don't even, I guess I'll warm up like by penciling or something. But like when I pencil, I use it as like it's like I'm writing the story in pencil, So like I'll like write the whole story out. Or this is one of the methods I use, is like I'll write the whole story out in pencil, like on the actual Bristol board that's going to be drawn on. Mm-hmm. And then I'll go back to the beginning and start inking it. And if I come up with different ideas for it as I'm inking it, I can add those to the story. I can erase things and restructure things, and that works pretty well. That's how I did a lot of the graphic novel I just finished, the Joseph Smith book. Like the chapters, because I took it a chapter at a time, and so I would just like write it all and then spend like 2 months or something inking it.
Sure. Yeah. No, that reminds me, for Holy Hanna, each of the pages in there I drew in a day.
Oh wow, okay. That's a lot of. That's over almost 2 years, really. I mean.
Yeah.
Really.
I forgot that's how I did that one. The pages were smaller, but yeah, that was kind of like the idea. That was me thinking about like graphic novels as like a novelist would think about it, and trying to wrap my head around it. Where the novels I like always feel like they catch a moment in time in the author's thoughts, and they feel very immediate, and not too refined like I think a lot of comics tend to be, And so that was my attempt to like just capture the way I was thinking about those things kind of in that moment by drawing it quickly.
Yeah. Did you feel like you've been able to like loosen up artistically since 10 years ago when Fingerprints came out? Because like I can tell that there's like a difference in your artwork and your line work where it's like this thing that every cartoonist goes through. But I don't know if they realize they go through it, where like when you first start, you're trying really hard to draw well. And you have your artistic heroes, and you're putting so much pressure on yourself to draw like them, but that's just not how you're naturally built to draw. And eventually, yeah, you realize how you're naturally built to draw, and then it's just about refining that ability and kind of leaning into that. And I feel like, for example, like if I look at like the artwork that's like in this, and then compare it to like the artwork that's like in this.
That one, yeah.
This is way more confident, in its looseness. It's like a beautiful.
That's funny. That's me blowing up my style. That was a very deliberate choice on my part to be like, I don't want to draw like this, how I've been drawing. So I want to see, I don't know, I just wanted to kind of like blow it up. And I felt like that was kind of the spirit of the 2D Cloud too, where it seemed like it was a little bit, you could experiment more with the artwork if you wanted to. And that's what that was. And yeah, no, I do think that there is some of that too. Like earlier work I was using, I was drawing everything with a brush, which I love. But
yeah.
For me, I mean, at a certain point, I was like, Will, you're not gonna be Charles Burns, and you're not even really trying. But that's really the only kind of artwork you like to make with this. Like that's what you like. You like it when it looks like Charles Burns the most.
Yeah.
In your own work, you're never gonna be that good with the brush. You don't even do that kind of artwork. And I was like, I think I need to move on to some other way of drawing. I think that was a big change for me too. Just there was that, and then also because I was drawing at work, I couldn't bring my brush and my nib and my ink bottle and my water to clean the brush and the cleaning utensils and the extra paper so that I can come. Like it just wasn't practical for me, and it seemed like limiting that I always kind of had to draw at my desk.
Yeah.
I just got tired of it, and I didn't think it was. I still sometimes draw with the brush because I drew with it a long time and got really good with it, and I can make nice drawings with it, but I don't really like making comics with it so much anymore.
Yeah, I never learned how to use it because I remember when I first got into cartooning, it was like line weights. You got to learn how to do line weights and all this stuff, and I never made sense to my brain. And I was like, well, that's what a brush. But if I use a pen, then I don't have to worry about any of that shit. I can just do like spiderly lines or something. Spiderly.
Yeah.
I can't say
yeah. Embracing line. I love it. Embracing line.
Yeah, that's right. And now it's just like sometimes I look at the comics I did. Like if I look through pages of like the hypo, I'm like, this is kind of like if somebody just dropped a whole bunch of string on the floor. That's what this like looks like to me now.
Well, I think it looked like how you felt at that time, probably, right?
Yeah, really angsty. Mm-hmm. Super angsty. 27 years old. 27 is like
ambitious.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna do a graphic novel. It's gonna be about Abraham Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln. Now he's like me.
What's the last thing you did? I did this comic about two chickens and they were hitchhiking. All the comics are before that. It was just like crazy, and I don't know. Yeah. So were you born in Chicago? Is that because you're Illinois, right?
Yeah, I was born in some town in Illinois. I can't remember. We moved around a lot. So yeah, I born in Illinois, and then we moved to Texas, moved to Dallas, then moved back to Schaumburg, and then Hanover Park, and then I went to high school in Rochelle, Illinois, which is really close to where John P. is from by DeKalb. Mm-hmm. So I get a lot of his references in his books about the landscape out there because I went to high school out there, and then came out to Minneapolis for college. But yeah, originally from Illinois.
Why did you stay in Minneapolis?
I think. I just really liked it here. There were a lot of cartoonists here right away. It was a really affordable place to live. It seemed like centrally located too, right away to getting to other shows. At the time when I was traveling to more comic shows, it was kind of relative. There was no one convention other than TCAF that was prohibitively expensive to get to from here. What else? I don't know. It's an arty city. Yeah. Lots of lakes.
Mm-hmm. It gets so cold there. That's what scared me off from living in Minneapolis. Because everybody's just like, you don't understand. You can go outside for 6 months, and then the rest of the year you just stay indoors.
Yeah. Well, it suited me when all I was doing was sitting around drawing comics, right? Like I kind of would hunker down a lot. But yeah, I like the change of seasons.
Yeah, of course. That's nice. I miss that. You don't see that down here where I am. But yeah, I think about it a lot. But do you feel like that's home to you, Minneapolis now, or do you still think of Illinois as home?
I think of this place as home. I feel like I'm from here now more than I'm from Illinois. When I go back to Illinois, and I don't like it there. So,
what about the comics you were reading as a kid? Were you reading X Factor?
no, it wasn't. I mean, I read my fair share of superhero books, but I stopped because I just kind of like you reach that point where you start reading books instead, and you realize that the comics aren't like keeping up with my interests, I guess. And then I found a comic shop that had some Fantagraphic books, and that helped me kind of like get into indie comics. But yeah, as a kid, like Calvin and Hobbes, I read Calvin and Hobbes. I read Cerebus. Read a lot of Cerebus.
I've never read that before.
I mean, it's probably too late now. It's really for like
that time.
I don't know. Like it's for teenagers, kind of, you know. And the neat thing about that was it was serialized at the time, so it was kind of like I don't know, like early community building in a way. You know, he's trying to like talk a lot. You know, what was in the extra pages was about as interesting as the comic sometimes.
What about ElfQuest? Did you read that?
No, my brother read ElfQuest. This is nerdy. Not for me.
Never hear about
the guy who read Cerebus, but yeah, no, it was too much for me.
Yeah, that one's just kind of disappeared. Nobody talks about it. There's no, I mean, as far as I know, there's no like Dark Horse omnibus of ElfQuest. Maybe there, I don't know, maybe there is. I've never seen any of that stuff, but I know it existed because of Weirdo magazine. They had a riff on it called Elf Squelch. I was like,
oh, those old books are so great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, what else was I reading? Like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, all the black, because like at that time, the black and white comics, the Eastman Lard had kind of stopped drawing them, and they would let all the like Steve Bissette and everybody draw them instead.
Yeah.
They were amazing. They were so good.
Michael, do you remember that? The Michael issue?
So good. They were blowing my mind. I'd read that comic still. Like,
yeah.
You know, I would just look at the artwork sometimes, like, what is this?
Yeah, in fact, I have it right.
Is that good?
Soul's Winter. Well, it's Michael Zulli, who like I just like his.
So it's the whole storyline then?
Yeah, it's the whole story.
Okay. I don't think I had all of them. I just had a few of them, but
yeah,
cool. I would get that.
Yeah, I like that.
Art is just amazing.
And he did this book called Puma Blues. It's like the Dover Collective.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's weird what stuff grabs me because my wife sees when I'm reading that like something that Michael Zulli did. It's like, whoa, why do you? Oh, that doesn't look. I'm like, oh, I don't know. It's like there's something about it that like it interests me. Like he doesn't. It's like he thinks of himself as like a real artist, but he's
it's like looking at a painting.
Yeah, but he's like doing comics. Yeah, there's something. But how did you get into doing your own comics then? What led you to do that?
I mean, in grade school, it was the only. I'd entertain myself by just drawing comics. Like little comics for myself. And it was the only thing that I just did that I enjoyed. That I remember drawing comics and they were just stick figures, but they were funny.
Yeah.
And then I'd show them to my friends and they'd always want to redraw them. Like, oh, this is great. Let's draw them better now. Yeah. And but then they weren't as funny anymore. And so I just kind of like felt like, oh, this is a thing that I'm good at that I like doing. And so I always just kind of did it for a while. And then in high school, I think I just kind of decided that that's what I wanted to do because I started using a Xerox machine and realized I could make books. And that just kind of opened it up for me. And then, going to MCAD really sealed the deal for me as far as like really kind of committing myself to it as an art form.
Who were your classmates there that we would know? Was Kevin Cannon in there?
No, Kevin. I don't know if he went to MCAD actually.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to think of who classmates at that time. Well, you would maybe know the person. Will Staley was a cartoonist that I had at that time, and he went on to design book covers for Michael Chabon.
Oh, okay.
So you would recognize his work for sure. trying to think of who else.
There was nobody. Did you have Zach Sally as a teacher when you were there?
No. When I was there, the program was really new, and so it was just Peter Gross and Barb Schultz, and it was a very young program. The teacher the cartoonist that was there that was teaching that I didn't have was Ryan Kelly. He's an amazing artist in Minneapolis, but he wasn't teaching comics. I remember at the time, James Sturm.
Yeah.
He came to MCAT because they were courting him to be a professor there for comics. I was really excited about it, and they didn't hire him. I think it was something about probably compensation or something. And then he went off and started his own school.
That's right. That school. Yeah. Well, that's good. Amazing. So your first mini comics were Habitual Entertainment?
Yeah, that was probably me thinking I would do like I wanted to do the kind of comic like a Cerebus, where it would be a monthly black and white comic that I could put out and kind of slowly build an audience. But that market was gone by the time I graduated, or really on its way out. So I was just kind of still trying to do something like that, I guess. And I had taken book art classes in art school that really made me love the idea of like making different kinds of books and experimenting with materials and things like that. So I was pretty enamored with that for a long time. And it was easy to get attention at comic shows at that time if you did really nice or thoughtful screen printed handmade books, because there weren't that many people doing it at that time.
Yeah.
The only other cartoonist I knew doing that was Vincent Stahl, and he was, at that time he really was the only person doing that and just cleaning up. So I did mini comics for a while. I don't know. It's always just an effort to be in a place where I can keep making comics in some way.
That was the era when you would go to a show and you'd get somebody's mini comic and the entire thing was screen printed. So you'd like opening the pages and they're all like stuck together. No, see, I hated that. That's why mine were better, because my screen printing partner, we used house paint, and so it didn't stick together. It would be solid on there, like really. That was never a problem we had because of the. How did that age? Did that flake off the pages by now?
No, oh no, it's never gonna come off. It's paint. Like it's wall paint. Like it'll probably outlast all the screen printed comics. Honestly, it's on there.
Is that what you did for Covered in Confusion? Was that house?
Yeah, that one was. Yep.
Yeah.
Screen.
So what was Habitual Entertainment about?
It was just I think it was at that time I thought I would do like a Blamo style book, which was like a regular like short stories.
Oh, okay.
I would just kind of do regular short stories in this kind of comic book format. But by the time I got to like the third or fourth, the fourth one, I guess, was that was Beautiful, Cool, and Irreplaceable. By the time I got to the fifth one, I was like, I did Covered in Confusion, and it just seemed like, I don't know, I'm going to start experimenting more with formats. I don't know if I need to keep this banner. Like, it doesn't, I don't know. I tend to kind of like do a thing and then just forget about it and move on to something else. It's what new thing can I do is usually how I can keep my interest in what I'm doing.
You wouldn't be interested in collecting a lot of your better short stories into a book?
I mean, I did do that, but then I handmade it, like, so I should see. Maybe I've got one here. No, it's not here. But I have done the collected short stories past, and then I just sell them all.
So maybe I wonder if that stuff turns up on eBay or something, because
probably.
You're like a collector's nightmare, man, because you can never track down everything. I just have like a handful of stuff that I've gotten like directly from you over the years,
Yeah, there were some of those there are not that many of, but I don't know.
Dan Stafford has a lot of your work. I think he's gotten directly from you.
Well, that was nice because you guys, when you guys were in Denver, his shop was really good about selling books.
Yeah.
And so I would always make a point of sending him stuff because I didn't like doing consignment, but there were certain shops that would just buy stuff outright and sell them, and he was one of them, which was great.
And they would sell them too. Like for some reason, Kilgore is really good at selling small press comics. People come in and they pick them up. Yeah, I wish I could find that stuff. I wish that you would, because it seems like you didn't really have like the interest in. Everybody from our generation was like, I want to be like a Drawn a Quarterly artist, or I want to be Fantagraphics or something like that. But you never really had that kind of obsession.
I mean, I definitely really wanted to be published by one of those three.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I was like, well, now what? And it wasn't, I didn't want to just do that again, I guess, necessarily. I mean, I wasn't against it. And I certainly have pitched stuff to people, but it's never been the main goal. It's always been, I don't know, like just trying to make the work I want to make as much as, and not really worry about the audience. It's kind of why I don't really do too much social media at this point either. I know the more I do it, the more I start thinking about like comics for that particular audience. Like I can't help myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to kind of keep it very, I don't know, separate from that in some way. I don't know.
Yeah. You have a Twitter?
No, I'd be a problem on Twitter. I'd say wrong things.
Yeah. What about you? You're on Instagram, I know that, and then you're not on Facebook.
I mean, I'm on Instagram. I have a Facebook. I don't really use them that much, just for the same reason. Like it'll consume me. I don't want to be an Instagram cartoonist.
Yeah.
Necessarily. But it's I don't know. It's always changing too. I feel like there's always some new platform I need to use, which is kind of why I like the newsletter. I feel like I've seen enough platforms come and go at this point that really I know I just want to be able to have my audience that I can keep and have it transfer across whatever platform tanks or people flee from or change to. I mean, I did a Tumblr for a long time. Like, it just goes away.
It does. Yeah, it's true. I know Tumblr. I had a lot of followers on Tumblr, and then what happened? I don't know where they went. Because I left Tumblr.
They just left Tumblr. They're like, we're done with this.
They're just gone. But so when you did Holy Hanna, I never saw the original version of it, but it was a slipcase with 3 volumes.
Yeah. You want to see it? I can go grab it.
I'd love to see it. Yeah.
Hold on.
While we wait.
Thanks.
That was a wonderful break.
That was great. See, this is way better than editing, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, I found that collection. This was a collection
Oh
of,
my God. Yeah, that's
of the short stories that I did, but they're all hand bound. And this has got a risograph cover. And then Covered in Confusion is in this one. And then a bunch of like the letterpress comics that I did. And then some of the color work. Like it's just it's the big collection of short stories that I did. So this would have everything that I'm, mostly happy with and was of that era, I think that you're remembering.
Yeah.
Because I don't really draw like a lot of this anymore.
Why don't you reprint that book?
I mean, I guess I could. It's
Yeah.
just, no, it'd be too expensive. A lot of these books I was able to do because I had access to a photocopier, although I have access to a photocopier. Do you think that cartoonists are just kind of naturally find themselves in situations where they can have access to a photocopier? I feel like that's something that can happen.
Yeah. Photocopier.
Anyway, this is the handmade version of Holy Hanna.
Let me see. What? Oh, okay. How did you do that?
So this is it's just it's a handmade box, slipcase.
Oh my God.
And then I've got the stories in here, and these are all just 3, because I kind of envisioned it as 3 acts.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've got the 3 different acts for them.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah, they're all kind of hand bound.
Damn.
And so that was really all I wanted it to be. in a way. That was I felt like that was me. I did my graphic novel. I had wanted to do this one for a long time, and that was it. And then Tom and Jordan at Uncivilized saw it, and they wanted to put out an affordable version, because this one's really expensive. It's mostly I sell it to institutions and like collectors and things. So and a lot of people didn't really get to read. I mean, I posted a lot of the story online, but not the ending. And so it was nice to put out a affordable version of the story, and that I'm really happy with how that one turned out. It looks really nice.
How big was the print run on that? Do you mind giving me a ballpark number?
Trying to remember, is probably like 1,000, maybe 2.
And you had to do that by yourself. You had to sit there and
of this? No, of this? 10.
Yeah. No,
I did 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, those, and it did take a long time. Like it was making those boxes. There was some versioning too. they don't all hold together that well. Yeah.
That's so cool, man. That's awesome. I wish I could do something like that. Like, there's that book that Louis Trondheim did, where he just had like 500 pages, and he just set off. Do you know that book? Because he like wanted to be a cartoonist. He's like, I'm going to do it in 500 pages. And by the end of the book, like you can see he has a style. I love that kind of like just giant narrative thing, like with a purpose, And I feel like that format, I don't know, it's so beautiful. Yeah. Do you have extra copies of that book for people?
Of this?
Yeah.
I've got one more. There's this one, which I'm keeping, and then another one.
Yeah. I wonder if people email you and ask for your back
sale on my website, probably. If they're interested. But yeah.
What about like if you had Kilgore reprint that collection of short stories?
He said he would at one point. But I don't know. It depends. Like I'd have to. I don't know. I've so moved on. Kind of like. Do you feel that way? I feel like every time I finish a comic or a project or a story, I move on so emotionally to the new thing, and I want to so quickly that it's hard for me to even think about going back and doing that sort of thing. Like a lot of that kind of thought, like career stuff. That goes into my design business really, because it pays better, and it's I could work really hard to sell a bunch of these books, but it's just not going to be very much money.
Yeah,
and like I don't know, I get I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, but it's not. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, like it's cool just to have that stuff out there for people that want it, because it sucks when somebody picks up a copy of Holy Hanna or Fingerprints or something. They're like, oh, he's got like a gazillion other things that I'll never get to read, So like, it's cool to have like a reprint of that, and especially if it's just like a paperback, thing.
That's true. That's true. I don't know if I could do just a paperback though.
Really?
I don't know. Yeah, it's got to have something special about it or something. I don't know. It would be.
What if it's a blank cover that you have to draw? You have to do a drawing on every single copy of the book.
That's exhausting.
You fly to Washington, D.C., where Dan you sit there in his garage, and you just have to draw on every single book cover. He came out here after we did the last Kilgore Kickstarter. He came out here with like all the prints from the Kickstarter and all the like book plates, and I just sat at my dining room table and just signed them all while he sat there on his phone. And then, and then he was done. He just drove back to Washington. So I don't know. Like I kind of like that. Though. It's fun. It's like a good excuse to just hang out with people,
I mean, I love sitting and numbering all of them when they're done. Like that's pretty fun. I don't know. I feel like I'm moving away from books. Like it's just I don't know. Again, like the Diners Club is me doing the things I said I'd never do. And I'm just more excited about like the possibilities for that than kind of going back and putting out old work, I guess.
But you move on emotionally from a book, you said, and I wanted to ask about that because like, then the book comes out and you have to go back and talk about it.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
I don't even know how. I'm like making it up usually. Like when I have to do that? I'm like, I don't know, a different person made that book. I'm doing something else right now. I'll talk about it like that guy is talking about that book. It's all, I don't know, like, an author has an intention with the book, but like, you only have so much control over what people are gonna, how people are gonna read things. And that's what I like about it. I try and encourage that sort of thing. So it's always really hard. The only time I can really talk about a book, I think, eloquently is when I'm actually making it. That's when I'm giving it the most thought. It's the most relevant. It's probably the most accurate as far as my intentions are. But, don't you go back and reread stuff that you did a long time ago and you're like, think and be surprised at how different the experience is than you thought it might have been at that time?
I don't know if I even can. It's really difficult. Even after I finish a story, like I don't, you can't. I really relate to what you're saying. Like you just kind of move on emotionally from something when you're done with it, and you just kind of go, what's next? But then you do have to go back and talk about it, and it's difficult because you're right. You're just like, and
then also when you're talking about it again, it's like with publishing, it's in a salesy kind of like. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but that's why you're talking about it, is so you're supposed to get people interested in buying it. Yeah. And so I don't know. I wish I could say that, like, I always wanted to believe that, like, because it is the responsibility of an artist to be competent at selling their work. I don't think that you need to think of yourself as an artist who just doesn't do that, or is beyond, or above it, or doesn't have the skills to do it. But it is hard, and it does take a lot of work. And I think for me, it's always been a question of bandwidth. I can make comics and have a job and maybe do one other thing, but that's kind of, like I can't and also make handmade books. I have to like make a choice at a certain point, like what is it that I really like doing, and it's always just making comics. But yeah,
drawing but also it's when you say making comics, I'm like, does he mean drawing them or like constructing the actual?
It's the writing and the drawing really that I really like the most, being in the middle of making it. And the books are, I mean, that's a whole separate thing. It's like a whole nother kind of way of looking at it. Like you almost finish the comic and then like I, take off my cartoonist hat and put on like my design hat, and then I get to make a thing. And I get to make it exactly how I want to, which is nice. But I don't know, it takes a lot of work, a lot of time. And I feel like I've done it enough that I kind of want to try something else, I guess.
Yeah, I understand. Do you draw at size? Like was Holy Hanna drawn small?
Yeah, it was drawn like, like that big.
So it's was it like a one?
Probably close to 100%, maybe a little bit smaller than the book.
Yeah. Yeah. Weren't you like involved in the designing of this?
Yeah. Tom and I worked on that together. He was great. It was nice. We wanted it to look like a Bible, and he was all over it. He loved that idea. No, it's great. I felt like it was the closest to doing a mass-produced screen printed cover, was doing thanks, Earl Grey. I like the popping up comments.
Yeah, Earl Grey has a really great channel. I don't know if you are a big YouTuber, Will, but like he has a great comics YouTube channel.
Cool.
Yep. Good taste in comics. So
I'll have to check that out.
All right, man. Well, I took an hour of your time, and that's
great talking to you.
Yeah, it was great to talk to you too. I
feel bad that it's like I only ever usually get to see you once, maybe twice a year, and now it feels like it's been forever.
It has been forever. We're getting old, man.
But I will see you again at some point.
Yeah, for sure. All right, buddy. Have a good day. Thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody who watched the video. See you later.
Later.